Hello and welcome. I'm Hazel Butterworth, Catalyst for Self-Awareness and Self-Liberation.
And I'm Carmen Braga. I'm a self-awakening mentor for women. And we are the co-owners of Healing Heart Center in Sherwood Park, Alberta.
And you can find us at www.healingheartcenter.ca. Hello, I'm Hazel Butterworth.
And I'm Carmen Braga.
And here is part 3 of our topic on fear.
Yes, and today we are talking on psychological fear. Very, very different. I don't think most people think of fear as a psychological thing.
No. It was so engrossed in thinking that all fear is just fear, like, and it's scary. And it's not. Some of it is self-imposed.
Most of it is.
I didn't want to say most of it, but yes, we do that to ourselves. We create it.
Yeah, we absolutely do. Yeah, I shared in the last video that I went through a cancer diagnosis with my husband 4 years ago, and it was interesting. Like I went into that. They call it valley of death, but I call it valley of fear because I really did go into that with all of that. And even though I didn't have to face my husband's physical death, I faced it psychologically over and over and over again, which in some cases, can be just as traumatizing as actually losing someone physically. And in my case, it actually led up to an interesting day for me one Saturday afternoon when we were sitting on the couch and just watching TV, and all of a sudden my heart started pounding and I got really hot and cold. I got really dizzy and I thought I was having a heart attack. It scared the hell out of me, and we went to the hospital. They ran all the tests. We were there all day, all night, ran all the tests, and they came back at the end of the night and the doctor said, "Go home. We can't find anything wrong with you." And I was like, "What do you mean you can't find anything wrong with me? You can see on the monitor it spikes every time this happens, right?" But they couldn't find anything. So I was just baffled. I was like, "What the hell? What is this?" Anyways, so we went home. It happened again the next day. It happened again the next day. And we went back to the hospital, and I got a different doctor that time, and he did the same thing, ran all the tests all over again, came back with the same result. "There's nothing wrong with you." And I said, I don't understand what's going on. Like, how can this be happening, but you're telling me it's not happening? And he said, "Well, given what you've been going through," because at that time, I think that we were about a year into all the treatments and everything like that. And, although everybody told me to look after myself, I was so ultra focused on looking after him that I pretty much ignored myself. And I didn't realize that I was going downhill that fast and that hard. And he said, "Given what you've been going through," he said, "the only thing I can see is that you're having anxiety attacks." And I actually got a little upset with that. I thought, how? And I said that to him. I said, "How the hell am I having an anxiety attack when I'm sitting on the couch watching TV?" I couldn't get it. He said, "I don't know. That's what I think it is." He gave me a prescription, and we left. I still didn't understand it, didn't quite buy it, because it had never happened to me before. And so I made an appointment. I went to see my doctor after that, and I told him what was going on. And, he had a good suggestion. If it happens again, take the pill that he gave me. If it calms me down, well, then we know it's an anxiety attack. If not, then we go back to the drawing board. Okay, well, that makes sense. I don't know why it didn't make sense in my mind before, but anyways. So it did happen again, and I took the pill. It calmed me down. I'll be damned. It was an anxiety attack. But I'm the type of person that I don't want to be on pills for the rest of my life. And I sure in the heck didn't want to be having these attacks, because I couldn't even drive because of being so dizzy. It was that bad. And that was like taking a big part of my freedom away. So there was no way I was going to do that. And I'm the type of person that I'm experimental with myself. And I always want to know what's going on behind the scenes. Now, at that time, I was actually writing a course that I was teaching at a local school here on Eckhart Tolle's work. And I came across a paragraph of his that I want to read to you guys, because when I read this paragraph, all the bells and whistles went off and everything just made sense to me all of a sudden. And the paragraph is, the psychological condition of fear is divorced from any concrete and true immediate danger. It comes in many forms: unease, worry, anxiety, nervousness, tension, dread, phobias, etc. This kind of psychological fear is always in the form of something that might happen, not something that is happening right now. You are in the here and now, while your mind is in the future, creating this imaginary danger. This creates an anxiety gap. You can cope with the present moment, but you cannot cope with the future you who is creating that imaginary danger. Now, can you? Now, for me, I was the one creating that imaginary danger. My mind was so engrossed with the fear that I had been experiencing, I just kept on reliving this over and over and over again. So I wanted to put this to the test. I thought, okay, well, if this is all made up in my mind, then I can change what's happening. And so the next time that it happened, I did a little experiment with myself. Instead of taking the pill, I went and I sat down. I have a meditation room in my home. I went and I sat down, closed my eyes, took some nice deep breaths, and I just asked myself, okay, I want to see what is causing this anxiety right now. And of course, the scene that I saw was my husband dying. So I asked myself logically in that moment, is he dying right now? The answer was no. Is he sick right now? No. Is he cancer-free right now? Yes. And I asked myself a series of logical questions. And my mind actually gave up and it just let it go. And all of a sudden the anxiety came down, 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 down. I thought, well, isn't that interesting? So I think it was the next day or the day after, it happened again, had another anxiety attack. So I tried it again. I went in, did the same thing. I started asking my mind logical questions. Is this happening right now? Is what I'm seeing, is this actually going on? The answer was always no. It was my mind making up these scenarios, but they weren't actually real. And yet my body was reacting as if they were real and causing the anxiety, right? But it actually wasn't happening. And so again, it brought it down. As I asked those questions, the anxiety just dropped right off. I only ever had to do it those 2 times. It never happened again. I never had another anxiety attack again, because I think I overrode something in my brain saying that I wasn't going to buy into that fear anymore.
You got the realization that it wasn't happening now.
Yes.
And so you could see from a different perspective, like when we have psychological fear, our thoughts run away with us. And as we think, our body responds. So that process exists. So to be cognizant and aware of what you're thinking in any moment, you realize you are the one that is actually instigating and creating that stress and anxiety. Because that's why we do imagination. That's why we do visualizations. That's why a sportsman who wants to win, they see themselves winning because that's what they want to bring into reality. It's the same with fear. When we focus, it's the same process. So whether you want to bring something in that you enjoy and manifest that brand new car, or whether you want you know, subconsciously, consciously, you're thinking, oh, of the worst case scenario. The process is the same. Your body will respond, and you respond to those thoughts. So yeah, that's part of that psychological fear, and it shows up in many different scenarios. It could be the threat of fear, right? Again, that future, what might happen in the future. And there's a lot of control. There's a lot of parenting that's done by fear. There's a lot of religion that is ruling by fear, right? The fear of God. If you don't do this, God will punish you. Or you won't go to heaven, right? You'll go to hell. And we grew up with those psychological fears. It could be that if you do something wrong, that maybe in our day, you did get a little slap around the wrist.
I had a pretty healthy fear around my parents.
All right. So you, as a child, you have that psychological fear. If you do something wrong, you will get punished in some way. So whether it's parents, whether it's society, whatever. So there are those psychological fears of consequences of your actions and what you do in this moment. So it's again the future. But that is part of which we're going to talk about next is how to dissolve some of those. So I was just going to say, so I thought, no, we'll save that for the next one. So an example of how simple and how easy a fear can build would be my bumblebee experience. And it's not that I'm afraid of bumblebees or that I have a major fear of them. It's just, I mean, you know, yes, I've been stung, so we have that in our memory. They do sting. And I was at work, and I had 2 rooms in my original premises, and I heard this bumblebee, and it hit what I thought hit the window, because if the window faced the sun, and you would hear the insects or the birds fly into the window. And I heard zzz, and I thought, wow, it's a bumblebee outside. And then I thought, no, that's a really loud bumblebee. I thought, it's inside. So I'm in my office, and I thought it was in my studio. And it got louder and louder. And that's where my psychological fear started like escalating. All of a sudden, in my imagination, this bee wasn't this big. This bee was like not just this big, but this big. But it filled the whole room. I mean, physically, that's not possible. And I asked those logical questions. Hazel, is that possible? No. How could it be that big? One doesn't exist, but how could it be that big? Get into that room? It couldn't have got through the window, couldn't have got through the door because it was too big. So, I mean, even the logic then didn't satisfy my, satisfy or quash my fear. And it's like, well, just go have a look. And it's like, I got out my chair probably about 3 times to go have a look just to see this, what I thought was a bee. And I thought, if I look around the corner, I imagined that this eye of the bee was going to be 6 foot tall, 4 foot wide, whatever, I don't know. I just thought I'm going to come face to face with this giant eye. And that fear was building. I was getting more and more scared. And I was sitting in my office and I'm thinking, and having those conversations, don't be silly, don't be silly. How can it be that big? Just go have a look. And I got up and I was sweating and I'd go around and I couldn't look around the corner. I said, you know what I did? Carmen knows what I did. She's heard the story.
She left.
I got in my car and went home, and I'm driving home thinking, did I really just do that? And I had that conversation. Did I really just leave my office because I thought there was a giant bee in my studio? And then that was a realization for me, because I've dissolved a lot of my fears. And every now and then something will pop up just to check in and remind you that fear, my answer on this experience was fear was reminding me how debilitating it can be. And to have more compassion when it does show up for those people who have it, whether it's a real danger fear or whether it's actually psychological, because really most of our fears are psychological.
Yeah.
Right? It's not often that we're actually physically in danger. It's just our ego's trying to keep us safe. So if I'm imagining this giant bee, my ego wants to keep me safe. So we go fright and flight. Well, what did I do? I flitted. Yeah. I got frightened and I flitted and I took off. So yeah, it is a very, so when fear shows up, is it, again, always the question, is it real? Is it danger? Or is it psychological? And it's generally a fear of the future or something unknown.
Well, it is, it is the unknown again.
Yeah,
right? Absolutely. Well, and for me, when I looked back, I actually had to laugh, because here I was watching a TV show on sinkholes that day, and I was sinking into a
Your
hole
own.
of my own.
Yeah.
And, you know, gotta love the irony behind it all, right? That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so.
Okay. Hello, we're Hazel and Carmen with Healing Heart Center Sherwood Park, and this is the Inspiration Station for Self-Awareness.
And you're watching TVU. To watch our show, click on the Health and Wellness channel.
All right, so the next part of fear that we're going to explore a little bit is fear of success and fear of failure. Fear of failure drives a lot of our decisions and limits us because it stops us doing things. We don't want to even try to do it because we fear we might fail.
Yeah.
So sometimes we just don't even bother. So what is that about? And then fear of success, you know?
Well, it's a form of self-sabotage, right?
Hugely.
You know, and again, like I mentioned in the last one, we draw upon our past experiences. So if you tried something in the past and you failed at it, and you're trying something similar to it, chances are you're going to be attached to that failure from the past and bring it into your now.
Future. And you know that if you're I was with a group, we were planning an event. It's like, oh no, we did that last time, didn't work. Oh no, we did that last time, didn't work. And my answer to that was, well, that was last time. That was with these people, these circumstances at the date. Here, let's start with the blank canvas, and that's where we that's where it's been one of my gifts, is helping people to change their perception and see things from a different perception. Because just because it worked that way last time doesn't necessarily be exactly the same. Nothing's ever exactly the same. Right? We're never exactly the same. So how can what we're doing be exactly the same?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's a big one. Yeah, your previous past determines right your choices very often in the present moment.
Yeah. Well, and often we are, like when you say success, a lot of people, we may want success, but there is, in a lot of cases, there is that underlying fear of success, right? Because if I become successful, my life's going to change in a lot of big ways. And again, there's the unknown. I don't know how to deal with that, you know, but that's where we jump the gun, right? We're looking so far in advance. You have to realize that by the time you reach that success, you're going to have the knowledge, you're going to have the tools that you need to actually face that at that time. Where we are right now is just in the inception stage kind of thing, right? But once you get to that place of success, whether it's a year, 5 years down the road, you're going to be a completely different person.
Yeah. One sort of scenario to help that is when someone is pregnant for the first time and they hadn't planned to be a mother and they have no idea and they never ever wanted to be a mother, and now they're pregnant, now what, right? So that fear of the end, the consequent, right? And this baby's going to be born. Now what? I don't know how to be a mom. I'm a first-time mom. But during those 9 months, it's amazing how you change and grow. And all of a sudden, this little light starts to build inside you. And I've seen people go through that change from someone who you thought was the most least likely candidate to be a mom because they had no desire to, whatever. But by the time, you know, going through a pregnancy, you evolve. And as soon as baby was born, it was like, oh, magical.
Yeah.
Like, who was I to think that I couldn't be a mom? This is absolutely beautiful. So, you know, as you talk about, as we progress and as we go through that process, we evolve and make natural changes along the way. But that fear of success too, as you said, could be that you don't know what that will look like. So it's a fear of an unknown. You don't know if you're successful. Sometimes you might think you're going to lose your friends and family because now you're going to be in a different league or a different circle of friends. But it's also, you might know somebody who is successful and maybe lords over you or is greedy or is very egotistical. So there is a part of you, and I have to admit and be honest, when I opened my business, there was a part of me that didn't want to be successful. I remember when I first started out, I didn't want to be busy because I'd come from the corporate world where it was busy, 60, 80 hours a week. And I was saying, I don't want to be busy. I don't want to be successful. And then it was like, one day it was like, well, Hazel, if you don't have any clients, you won't have any business, right? I need to be busy. But I had to change my perception of the word busy. Yeah. I need to be busy with clients doing what I love to do, right? And the success that was a key pivotal turn point for me. But we sometimes have that perception of someone who is successful, and it's the fear of you becoming that person, which again is not true. You only become that way if you choose to become that way. You can be successful and enjoy your success and share your success. How you behave and how you use that success is your choice. And you see that a lot with movie stars and musicians, right? The money goes to the heads and they become so astronomically off this planet, and other people are the most humane people and really do so much for human nature, and there's no Hollywood about them. Yeah, right. Sure. So,
well, it is. It's all. It's a lot to do with how we grow up and our interpretation of money and success. Absolutely. Yeah. You know, it does play a big part.
It does. Yeah. So psychological fear, and again, think about it when abuse, right? We know is that when somebody uses fear to either control you, and it could be the consequence. It could be at work. You know, the fear you do what you do because you're afraid of the boss. So, and if you don't do that, you might lose your job. We talked about losing jobs in our last segment.
It's bullying in the workplace.
Bullying in the workplace, right?
And a big problem.
Fear is very much in the workplace, right? That hierarchy, the higher ups, and someone has more power over someone else, and that's all fear driven. Right? Because, what will the boss say? I've got to do that because the boss will be on my case. Yeah. If I don't do this, the boss will, I'll get demerits, or I won't get my pay raise, or, fear drives so much.
It does. Yeah. Unfortunately, it does an awful lot. But that's where we need to educate ourselves on the different types of fears. What are you experiencing yourself? And how can we work through these things? How can we look at them differently, change our perceptions, like you were saying, things like that. So it's having the tools to help yourself going forward to not be living in fear all the time, right? And I said in the last one too, like, am I free of fear? No, but I do fear less, a lot less than I used to. Yes. And that's what we're going to actually share with you guys in the next video. In our next
we'll focus on different ways to dissolve fear and anxiety, but how to recognize and move through. So okay, all right. Well, thanks for being with us on this segment. And remember, we're both here to help you and assist you through your journey and help you identify those fears. And we'll see you on the next segment.
Yeah. See you soon.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Hello, this is Hazel and Carmen from Healing Heart Center. This is the Inspiration Station for Self-Awareness.
And you're watching the Health and Wellness channel on TVU.